Alright guys, how you doing? It's Rabea, I hope you're all well. So I thought I'd film this video from a different setting. We're actually in my control room right now because I'm right in the middle of recording guitars for the VOWER stuff, and I wanted to make this video whilst I have this amp in my possession because I'm very excited about it and we've been getting some great results. So the amp that I'm talking about is the JCM 800 2203 modified from Marshall Amplification. Of course, the JCM 800 needs no introduction because it's an iconic amplifier that's been used for decades on recording and live and everything else. I'm sure you know what a JCM 800 is, but the modified version was announced at NAMM this year, and I got a chance to meet Steph Carter, who is one of the main guys at Marshall, through a couple of friends, Jake and Luke from People, legends, and we got chatting, and I mentioned that we'd be recording the VOWER stuff later this year, i.e. now, and I'd love to get hold of the JCM 800 modified so that we could use it in the recordings, which is what we've been doing. So Joe has been using that on his side of the recording, and that's why we're all set up in here, because I've got it all rigged up, through into the stage box, into the other room, through a 4x12 with mics on it. Got the pedal board down underneath my desk so we can patch in different pedals and just get the tones we want. And I figured this was a great opportunity to film this video to show you guys what it sounds like mic'd up through a cab. So that's what we're going to do in this video by checking out the Marshall Amplification JCM 800 2203 modified. So what is modified about it? Well, obviously it's a 2203, so it's sort of what you'd expect. You get presence, bass, middle and treble, master volume, and you get preamp volume, but the modifications have come on the three little toggle switches on the front. So you've got a tight switch, which is really cool. You've got like they call it an OD switch 1 and 2, which give you different amounts of clipping stages, more gain staging basically, so you can drive this preamp harder, get more gain out of it, because the classic 2203, you'd put an overdrive in front of it or something like that to really push this amp, whereas you don't necessarily need to do that. It depends on the tones you're looking for, but you can get a lot more out of this amplifier because you've got that OD switch 1 and 2. In the middle it's off, and then left is 1 and 2 is on the right. And then you also have a mid shift switch, which pushes the mids right out in front as well. So it's all about the type of tones you're looking for, but what it's done is made this particular amplifier more flexible tonally. Got an effects loop on the back, so I'm running the Strifector as well. Got pedals on the floor, so we're just going to mess around and dig into some tones. But really, this is less of a, well, it's not a demo or a review or anything like that. This is just me in the midst of recording VOWER stuff, and I wanted to show you how this amp sounds as I've got it mic'd up, and we've got some nice cab tones basically. The cabinet we're running is a Massaad 4x12 with V30s in it. Really good cabinets, of course. They need no introduction because they're sick, but it's mic'd up with an NTR ribbon and a 57. And a quick shout out to my engineering prowess in that if you can see on the close-up that I've just filmed it, I've got a camera slider that I use when I'm doing stuff on my own, so I get a bit of motion in my videos. But I didn't realize that a mic clip fits on top of the camera slider, which is basically giving me a robotic microphone stand, because they're really expensive, and I already had the slider, and this actually works perfectly where I can actually pan and slide the position of that 57 around the cone to find a really nice tone. And it's really interesting when you use stuff like this, because you think when you're actually holding the mic and putting it on the cab, you go, that's the right place to put it. But when you've got a robot arm or something like that where you can sit in the other room and slide it around and find that sweet spot, it ends up being totally wild where you might not necessarily have put it if you were doing it manually. So we've got a blend of a ribbon and a 57 for some girth and all the rest of it. So yeah, that's basically the rig. Let's check it out. So I figured it would only be right to use my Les Paul for this because, you know, Les Paul Marshall, it's a winning combo. So what we'll do, just to show you the kind of scope you can get out of it, is this is dry, but I've got the preamp volume on full. Mid's just over halfway, got quite a bit of bass and presence pushed in, treble's just over halfway, the master's up, so it's cranked. I quite like it not quite as sort of sharp and bright, so that 57 is quite on the edge. And I prefer to do that and then push up the presence if needed, and same with the treble. So, in any case, what I want to do next is show you the overdrive switch. So, it's quite saturated, but if we put it into position 1, so you can hear how it's definitely way more saturated, but we can go even further into position 2. So, I mean, getting to just jam on it and feel that like harmonic richness that's coming through, and hopefully that's coming through the mics to you guys. The way it's mic'd up for me, I feel like it is definitely smoother than you may be associating with the JCM 800, but I quite like that. I'm really hearing that, particularly on like those Ds and Gs. On a guitar like this, where you really have to dig in, but when you do that, especially with those kind of licks up on the top, let's show you what the mid shift sounds like. So I'm going to put the mid at halfway. This is what we've got. Throw it on. I feel like the switch is close to like boosting the mid all the way up. This is the mid all the way up without the shift switch in. Now if I pull the mid down to like a quarter and push the mid shift switch in, it's like quite similar. So I guess the idea really with the shift switch is that it gives you bigger scope for mid-range. And of course, by bringing the preamp volume down, you can get into that sort of really glassy, not really clean, but you know, definitely that pushed clean vibe. Bit of compression, delay and reverb. Push the mid shift switch in as well. So it's fun. Right, the only thing that I haven't really shown you at this point is the tight switch. So I'm going to push the gain all the way back up. We're in position 2 of the OD switch. And the difference between the tight switch in and out. So this is out. And in. You can clearly hear how tight it's got. So the other thing that's worth pointing out is that it's not like a mega high gain amplifier, but by having those extra gain stages, it means that it can push it further into that realm. Then if you've got boosts out front that you want to use, put that tight switch on, you really can get like a more modern high gain tone. And I don't suppose this modified JCM 800 is specifically for modern players, but it's allowing players that want to do that to get into that world, especially if you like the sort of JCM 800 sound. So let's try that. I've got the Revival Drive. This is the Revival Drive Compact without the tight switch. So that's lots of gain now. Put the tight switch in. So that's the Revival Drive Compact with the tight switch in. If I take that out, should give us a little more saturation. Funny thing with this amp, and generally with JCM 800s, is I haven't ever owned one. I know its importance and I have used them from time to time in recordings and stuff, but that's been in a very specific environment. And even in this situation, having this amp here, we've been recording with it for a specific purpose, for specific tones. So this is the first time I'm actually sitting down, messing around, dialing in some tones, and getting to explore that sort of magic of a JCM 800. And I would say, I don't think it's capable of like modern high gain. I don't think that's what you'd get an amp like this for anyway. But I would, and one thing we did discover is pairing it up with that diesel VH2 was super girthy. And also from the classic rock and hard rock standpoint, heavy rock even, this amp certainly feels like that's where it's supposed to be. Feels really nice for leads, especially if you add an overdrive in front. I think you can get the classic bitey lead, and there's definitely enough there, especially if you're on stage and you're getting that feedback. Obviously we're hearing it through the mics, through studio monitor. Well, I am, studio monitors, you're hearing the mics. But when you add like an overdrive in front as well, you get that extra saturation, that extra like you know, screaming sort of high gain feeling with a bit of reverb and delay, and it really, it sort of, the marriage is quite nice. Especially on a guitar like this, you know, this is low output, old school guitar. I do have my Saber here as well with my bare knuckles in it, so we can push it a little bit harder from that side of things. But just at this point in the video, if you're still watching, which I appreciate, it's definitely, it's a classic, hard, heavy rock amp. It's not a metal amp, but depends on the type of metal we're talking about. If you're doing like, I don't know, aggressive kind of music, then definitely, but if you're talking like heavy metal, definitely not. Right, got my Saber in drop C with the silos, so it's currently on overdrive 2, no mid shift, no tight, all the way up volume. That's how it sounds. That's thick. Tight switch. I did a little bit more treble, more presence. Duck out the mids, back off the bass a touch. Let's see what it can do in the world of like low to mid gain, halfway, no overdrive switch. I've been jamming for ages. This video is probably going to be really long. I've got to crack on, carry on recording this record. But I wanted to shoot this video to share my excitement about having this in the studio while we're recording the new stuff. And also getting a chance to just really dig into it and mess around with it and see what kind of tones I can get. Like I said, I never had an original JCM 800, so it's very cool to have this in the studio, being a 2203, which is the one. With these modifications, make it more enjoyable for me in that I can get a lot out of the amplifier that I don't need to use a ton of pedals for and stuff, but I really like the combination of the Les Paul with it. A more high output guitar like this, you don't need to use the second gain stage, but if you do, you can use the tight switch, and it really does give it more of that tighter hard rock edge, super thick as well for chords and stuff, which I really like. But I'm just happy that it's here, and I'm happy that I get to use it for a bit. May end up trying to get hold of one, you know, permanently, because it's just a great amp to have in the studio. My first amplifier was a Marshall amp. It was a JVM, which I loved, and they talked about how the crunch channel was reminiscent of a JCM 800, but personally I don't hear that. This is very different from that. The JCM 800 has a sort of scooped tone to it. It's a really fun amp, and the JVM has that sort of high gain in spades, so it's really fun for shred, whereas this is more of a classic hard heavy rock kind of amplifier, and I think where it excels for me is just that it's got a lot of vibe, and the original does too, so it hasn't lost any vibe in its modification version. Anyway, I'm rambling. Look, it's a really cool amplifier. I like it. It's been fun. It's been fun to record. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you've enjoyed the tones, the change in scenery. In any case, thank you for watching this video. Thanks to Steph as well for sending this out for me to use on the recordings. But yeah, as always, let me know what you think in the comment section. Links in the description box. Like, subscribe and share. I've been Rabea, and I will see you all very soon.